Hello and welcome to the Turn 4 podcast. I am your host, Dan Maldonado. If this is your first time listening, welcome. If you're a regular listener, welcome back. This podcast comes from two lifelong fans of IndyCar and motorsports. We are not insiders. Before we get started, let me introduce you to my co-host, Tim Reiner. Hey, Timmy.
Hey, Dan. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I am really good.
It's good.
It's Monday after a great weekend of racing, and then here we are.
Lots of stuff going on, wouldn't you think? I mean, not just in the world of motorsports with a lot of practice at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, qualifying, a lot of qualifying at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. We had F1 there too, but we also had some other exciting things going on for our show here. You want to talk about it?
Yeah, I do. I do want to talk about a few things. First, we were a guest on another show, right, Dan?
That was so cool.
It was so cool.
So fun.
I had so much fun. Sounds like you had fun as well. And I actually listened to it just to see how we sounded. And I was impressed.
So did I.
So for those that are wondering, we were on the Dudes in Hyperspace podcast with Ian and Kevin, a great group of authors. I think they have another guy as well. He wasn't on, but yes, authors. We were on with authors, songwriters, and they do more. But they're big motorsports fans. And they're kind of big NASCAR fans, which
they are.
NASCAR around Indy cars.
We don't hold it against them.
We don't. Sometimes we think it's a bad word, but no, not really. They were really good. So yeah, we discussed motorsports, IndyCar, and of course the Indy 500. Go check them out. The show is called The One About the Indy 500, Summer Grilling, and Jimbo versus Saban, which must be a reference to college football. Great group for sure. And make sure you check them out on all the major podcast sites. But that is not the only thing that took place between our last recording, right?
That's right.
We had a live YouTube show last Friday with Chef Brian.
Yeah, a first for our show.
It was our first too. Yeah. So we had our first, and we were looking at stats on the Indy 500. Another great show on who's the best ever at the Indy 500. You can find that show on our YouTube channel and Brian on Twitter at 500 Indy 1911. That's 1911. And that is a reference to the first Indy 500 and not when Brian was born. Otherwise, that would make him very old. But he had a lot of great insight.
Yeah.
What's up?
He would have looked great for 110 years old.
He would have looked really good. So we're looking to do a follow-up show with Brian just to see how everything stacks up after this year's winner is crowned at the Indy 500.
Yeah.
But on to the weekend.
Good stuff. We had it was good fun last week. It was
busy. Really busy.
For sure. Yep. Good motorsports action over the weekend. Sounds like you took in a lot of it. I took in as much as I could using the IndyCar app, the IMS radio network, and then DVR and Peacock, all of which was very valuable to me while I was traveling for the day job.
And I spent a lot of time in front of the TV watching. So
that's good because that's exactly where I would
for sure.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. It was a great weekend. A lot of stuff to watch, a lot of good insight from the broadcast team, and a lot of good stuff even in Formula One this weekend.
Yeah. So before I get into that, I want to say something about the IMS radio network, which has a terrific broadcast. I love listening to it. It was invaluable to me, not only this weekend, but last weekend when I was at the GMR Grand Prix, where I had to sit in the car because of the weather, but it was great. A lot of commercials.
Oh, really?
I just want to say that. Yeah, it's not a complaint, guys. It's just an observation. A lot of commercials. A lot of commercials. So anyway,
sponsorship is the thing that makes things kind of turn, right? And
take it when you can, because I would imagine that all the interest is in the month of May. So if they're selling out every second of inventory that they have. So I'm sure that they're getting as much as they can. So good on them. I'm just saying, not a complaint, just saying. So hey, tell me about the F1 race. I got a few points on the F1 race. We're not going to spend a lot of time there because we got a lot to talk about with qualifying, but tell me about the F1 race, your thoughts, your observations. What stands out?
My observations just overall, generally speaking, was that it was a very entertaining race. And I don't often say that about F1, but from the start through, engines letting go, through people spinning out and still going, to someone who fell back early and wanted to quit the race. There was a lot of things happening throughout the race, and it was a very interesting one to me. I think the other thing that sort of popped into this one was team orders to let people by and not to get back in the position you were before. So that's the other thing that I noted. But overall, I was entertained. Sometimes like I'll watch and then I'll have to like get up and do a few things. But this time was pretty much butt in the seat and watching the race. So it was good.
Lewis Hamilton finished 5th, but that may not have been because
he was willing to sacrifice the race to save the engine.
Which
that's what he was radioing back to the team. And I was shocked. It was not even a lap into the race. Maybe it was lap 2. And he's like, let's save the engine. And Toto came back on the radio and said, hey, based on our projections, you're going to finish 8th. And he ended up finishing 5th. So I don't know if I've ever heard a driver say, I'm done.
Insane. So he had the coming together with Kevin Magnussen and dropped him back to last. And he was
because he had a flat tire, right?
Yep.
The left front went down.
Yep. So he had to make his way back through the circuit, get service, and then rejoin the race, where his feeling was, let's just save this engine. We can park this thing or we can do whatever and, just move on, live to die another day.
It was a great recovery. But like I said, I've never heard of a driver saying, hey, let's hang it up for the day.
I guess I can't believe that somebody like Lewis Hamilton would have even entered the mindset.
Yeah.
Kind of surprising to me. That stood out most. What also stood out, of course, was our eventual winner, Max Verstappen. I'm a Max fan, as you know. Spins into the gravel, and he had issues with DRS. Held on for the win, which means more reliability issues with this Red Bull. But you know what? Red Bull didn't have any reliability issues? Perez.
Yeah.
While Perez was leading, Leclerc was out because the previously aforementioned in this podcast, bulletproof Ferrari finally showed a little bit of weakness, and they had an engine let go. So Leclerc was out. He would be the number one person that Max is fighting in this championship. Max would have finished second. Perez would have finished first. Still probably would have been in control of the championship. Certainly Red Bull would be in control of the championship. So I don't understand why it is that Red Bull felt compelled to move Perez behind Max to ensure Max's win. I know these are the things that happen. Perez did it. He's a team player. I think, he's going to maximize every opportunity he can to stay in that seat because it is a top level seat. He's done a great job there, but I don't think he's necessarily there to always be that number 2. Like, I think he is due for some wins occasionally, and I think this would have been an opportunity for him to have some wins. What do you think?
Yeah, I never like team orders. I'm glad it really doesn't happen in IndyCar, but Perez had said afterwards, he goes, there needs to be some discussion within the team, because his thought process is that I'm going to get this position back because, the way it worked out in the first round was that Max was on newer tires. So let him by to, take the fight.
Sure.
And then at the end of the day, it stayed in that order. So he was definitely upset. I would be upset as a driver. I think anybody would be upset in that situation, but it goes to show there's a number 1 driver in a team and there's a number 2 driver in the team. And when you can maximize the number 1 getting the most points, you put Max in the front. And that's what they did. The Verstappen spin was very interesting too. It was that
Sainz
same
had a spin in the same spot.
Yeah, it was the same spot. There was talk of something on the track. I don't think that was really it. I think they just both lost it in the
They
same
said,
area.
what, gust of wind or something on the broadcast.
Yeah, they did. And the other thing to note on the Ferrari side with the engine, Alpha had the same thing with one of their cars as well. So
Alfa
Bottas
Romeo
had it. Yeah, which is a Ferrari engine.
Zhou Guan Yu. Yeah, he had that. Yeah, that's right. You're right. Yeah, good.
So that was the other thing that I saw that was interesting. And so there was questions about the other Ferrari and whether it would hold up, which it did.
Yep.
But yeah,
I guess.
Did you think it was entertaining? Because sometimes those
I
can
thought
get
it
a
was
little
great.
dry.
Yeah, it does. It does. I thought the race was really good. I enjoyed watching it. I like those old school European tracks too. It's not this giant wide track, where people are making unnecessary decisions or unnecessary moves. And it was good. It was entertaining. George Russell was tough, but of course Max didn't have DRS, right? George Russell was tough there, battling for a podium. So what we've also said on this podcast before is that Mercedes won't be down forever. And it looks like they've been able to cure some of the handling ills that they've had. Now, if they feel like they've solved that problem, they can continue to hone this car, which I guess might play a little bit into switching, Verstappen over Perez, which kind of can lead a little bit to that. Ferrari, I don't think is going to have these mechanical issues very often. I think more of what's going to ail Ferrari might just be driver error. Occasionally here and there. But I think that's more of the thing. Once Mercedes gets it figured out, Max will need every ounce that he can get. But in that same token, he's also going to need a very cooperative teammate.
I agree. And Mercedes was holding up the Red Bulls for a little bit. George Russell was doing the late move down the front straightaway to keep the two Red Bulls behind him. And there's a substantial difference in car performance. You could tell with the blocking moves. I call it blocking moves. I know you're allowed one move. But yeah, at the end of the day, once the Red Bulls got out in front, they definitely pulled out away from George Russell. And the other thing that I noticed when you look at positions 1 through 4, there was 15 seconds between each position as they came across the line, which is that's a big gap. 15 seconds from first to second, from second to third to fourth. But the fans are still showing up. They loved it. They love it. There was, I think they said 278,000 over the 3 days that showed up at the track, and the place looked packed. So it was good. The other notable thing that I wanted to say about the race, though, was McLaren. I almost said Arrow. I caught myself, Dan, from the last show. So McLaren, Lando had his fastest lap taken away for track infringement. So going outside of the boundaries of the track. And Daniel, his teammate, Daniel Ricciardo, not Daniel Maldonado, but Daniel Ricciardo, ended up qualifying in a much better spot than what Lando did. But at the end of the day, Lando drove through the field, which was pretty amazing to see.
And he was sick.
Yeah, he was sick.
Tonsillitis.
Yeah. Is that what it was at the end of the day? Okay.
Yep.
I did hear that he wasn't feeling so well. So that was a good run too. And then the BTW cars, they looked pretty strong as well.
The Alpine,
BTW, whatever they are. They look good. So I watched a little bit of that. So yeah, it was good.
I like it. I thought it was a good race. I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
On to Indy. Tim, there was a lot of IndyCar qualifying this weekend. Do you like this new format? Was it entertaining?
Going into it, I wasn't super excited, but I thought it was good at the end of the day. And I was even out of my seat cheering a little bit at the house, which is I don't normally do. And so that gives something to say about the format. And then I kind of reflected on the format, because the format is the same, as my understanding, as if you go to a road course or a street course.
Technically,
when you go down to 12 and then you go to 6. So then I was like, makes total sense. But for me, being a simple guy, it took me a little while for that to all click and go, oh, okay.
Obviously, the most notable difference is you're not doing 4 laps on your own at full on anger, right, on a 2.5 mile oval. And I think it proves that who we're going to talk about here in a minute, Scott Dixon, it had an amazing weekend and has an amazing car underneath him. In fact, that whole Chip Ganassi racing team was fast, and they were fast out of the box, and they were fast all weekend. How those guys were able to hang on for 3, basically, right? I mean, two big opportunities, let's call it two
Yeah.
big opportunities to qualify for the Indianapolis 500 was just unbelievable. And conditions weren't exactly perfect either day.
Yeah.
Really.
And I think you got to go back to Fast Friday and just talk about the conditions Fast Friday with the wind and the heat and everything else that was going on that day. So I don't think a lot of the teams got a good sense of what was to come on Saturday, which was much cooler conditions, no wind. Some folks were chasing the setup, but to your point, you had to do the 4 laps on Saturday. And then if you made the 12, you did the 4 for the 12 to get to the 6. And then the final 6 got to do 4 more, which is 10 miles in order to get on the pole. So I thought it was going to be too much, like I said, but at the end of the day, I think it's a pretty good format. If you don't have cars that are bumping, and maybe if you do, maybe you can still work it in, but it provided the entertainment that I think the series wanted to provide. And overall it was good. And I even heard from the turnout seemed really good at the track too. And even Scott had mentioned how loud the cheers were, especially when he grabbed the pole at that new record for pole position at the Indy 500.
I would rather see bumping, obviously.
Yeah.
I think we won't see bumping at the Speedway until we see a third engine manufacturer. I would much rather see bumping. I don't know that I like, 3 qualifying attempts at the Indianapolis 500 for these guys, because anything can happen. And yeah, the weather was better on Saturday than it was on Friday, but that's a relative term because the afternoon started to get worse, right? The conditions started to deteriorate. And I think that's where we saw the guys who had the early draw that really had the favorable speeds, because as the session ran on, the weather started to turn on some of those guys.
Yeah, which it does. You get the heat of the day, right? And then it got washed out later in the day. So you can come back during happy hour, if you want to call it that, in order to improve your time. And some went out and fell further back in the field. But yeah, it was, if you win the pole, you earned it because you had to do it 3 different times in order to get there. And everybody earned, all those drivers in the top 12 earned the points they're getting. And Scott earned the $100,000 he got.
Yep. So kudos to Chip Ganassi Racing. They were not playing around this weekend. They were very, very good and heads down and moving forward very aggressively. Also, too, I think it should be noted, this is the first time they've run 5 cars, because Kanaan joins the effort in addition to the regular 4 series regulars, I guess is what I should say. All 5 were fast, which is unheard of. And that includes Jimmy Johnson. And I know a lot of people have been waiting for this to happen. I'm happy that this has happened, believe it or not. And Jimmy was able to take his 12th place starting position, which is very respectable for a rookie at Indianapolis, because that is what he is. And he's got a storied career behind him. Still a rookie at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So I'm hoping that he can take this 12th place and do something with it in the race. It's going to be a long race. Yes, he's a veteran of 500 milers. They talked a lot about that on the IMS broadcast on the radio, not necessarily as much on the Peacock, but he's not a veteran of 500 miles in an Indy car. So it's still going to be touch and go. He's going to have to still run a very smart race and hope for some luck and hope for some things to go his way. So I was driving back from Chicago, actually listening to the Fast 12 qualifying, and the last word I'll have on Jimmy Johnson there was that spin. And it sounded dramatic on the radio, and obviously I couldn't see it. Not the spin, but the near spin, right? This sort of sideways drift that Jimmy had in turn 2. And I came home and watched the qualifying, and man, I think I scared my wife sitting next to me on the couch. She was doing something else. I was like, whoa. Yeah. And it was just big. Yeah, just insane. Now, with that said, again, I'm a soda pop salesman, not an IndyCar driver, but it looks to me from those in-car cameras that Jimmy was still spending a lot of time steering that car, even coming out of the turn, like not just the spin, not just trying to recover from the spin, but diving into the corners and steering it out of the corners, diving into the corners and steering it out of the corners is kind of what it looked like to me. Where when you look at Palou or you look at Dixon, it's they soften their hands a little bit and let the car kind of drift and hold it if they need to, but they let the car drift, coming out of the corner, bring it down low on that back stretch, back up high into the turn, let it drift, into the turn, let it drift.
Yeah.
That's what it looks like for those other guys, where Jimmy is a little bit more aggressive with the wheel. I feel like that could be kind of a NASCAR holdover. So somebody I was talking to earlier today said that they remember seeing an old interview with Scott Pruitt, who is incidentally on Jimmy's box as a driver coach.
Yep.
Where Scott Pruitt was talking about he's used to having very soft hands in IndyCar and having to be more aggressive.
Yeah, sawing at the wheel in NASCAR, right?
Yeah, because remember,
and I think it comes down.
Yeah,
the way I look at it, it's just like pinching the car just a little too much with the steering wheel. You pinch it too much, the back end gets loose. You got to correct it. He corrected it and stayed off the wall, which was amazing. But obviously, it killed his qualifying lap.
Yeah. Magnificent effort. There's no other way to say it. Magnificent effort by Scott Dixon, who puts it on pole. This is Scott's 5th pole at Indy and one shy of tying Rick Mears, who was certainly a master qualifier around the speedway. Scott's car was fast. Tim, there's no other way to say it. He was fast. I really couldn't see any issues as far as loose or moments. They talk about these quote moments. You see anything?
No, but he wasn't happy on Saturday with the car, and he wasn't happy with the setup on Friday as well. And they dialed it in for him. They dialed it in. Maybe Scott took it to the next level. Scott's been talking all series about we need to do better qualifying. We need to do better qualifying. I know this is the Indy 500. It's different, but they did it. They did it well, and they did it after they were chasing the handling on the car pretty much all week leading up to qualifying day and pole day.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, they got that car dialed in if he was unhappy with what it felt like on Saturday. Because Palou, who qualified 2nd, missed out by a little over half a mile an hour average. Right?
And he was disappointed. You could see it on his face.
Oh, yes. And he was trying to put a face on it. You could tell, right? Like
he was
trying
totally,
to put a face on it. Yeah.
But I get it. He's a young kid. He wants to take the pole. I totally understand that.
Dixon averaged 234.046. Palou's average 233.499. That is a lot of speed difference over 10 miles. That's a lot.
It is.
So whatever they did to Scott's car, they got it definitely going. Palou's car was going all weekend. I actively
Palou is good.
Palou. He's so good. He's the future of the sport for sure. But I was so happy for Dixon. Yeah,
I was as well.
Yeah. And I think Indianapolis proves to be kind of a mature racer's game. I other than Alexander Rossi, who was in his 20s when he won the 500, over the last 10 years, the average age was like 37, right? Including Rossi in his 20s. So I think this is definitely not a young man's game necessarily. I think the experience comes into play here.
Palou was 2nd in last year's race and 2nd in qualifying this year.
Yep.
If you're saying it has to do with experience and being around the track and age and wit, if you want to call it, he was one up last race, the last Indy 500, and then just here in qualifying. But still a great effort and a great job by Palou. He's going to be there all day on Sunday.
He's going to be there all day, and he's going to be a champion.
He'll be an Indy 500 champion for sure.
Absolutely. Speaking of age, you got Kanaan, but before I get to Kanaan, don't want to forget Marcus Erickson. He finished right in the middle of row 2, 5th place. Good, smart. He's got a very unique line around the speedway, not your traditional line around there. Helio Castroneves also has a very unique line around there.
Yeah, they talked about that one. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So whatever it is that Erickson's doing seems to be working for him. He looks to be in really good command. He's got a great car like the rest of them. Yeah. We were talking about age. I think you got to talk about Tony Kanaan, right? Oldest driver in the field, I believe. 6th place.
47 years old.
Yep. Tim, do you have a hard time believing that's old?
It depends on the day. Some days I feel old, some days I don't feel old. So it depends on the day. But yes, in motorsports, that's old.
That is old. Yep. As an aside, I love the red rims on Kanaan's American.
They do look
Honda.
good.
I
they
love
look
that.
sharp.
Yes. To me, two things: rims should be painted if that makes sense, if it works with delivery, and second, the floor of these cars should be wrapped with the color of the car. Shouldn't just be black.
You think you should wrap those and not leave them carbon fiber?
Absolutely, you should wrap those. Yeah, I think.
You know why they don't do it? I'm assuming
cost,
here,
right? Yeah, I mean,
cost and weight.
Sure. Yep. I give you that. These cars
keep the weight off the car, but it seems like there's some room for it. But there's got to be a reason why it's not being done.
Yeah, these cars are fatty boombalatties already, so you can't really do much with it. So
they are.
Hey, amazing effort by this team, and something Honda I think would assuredly be pleased to have in their pocket, given.
Please, they must have been celebrating.
Oh yeah,
it had to be a celebration for sure at Honda.
Sure. Yeah,
it's so crazy after how the season started with Chevy, and now you've got Honda, and it's they came to play.
Yeah,
it was amazing. All right, where are we at now?
Fastest pole qualifying speed of all time, Scott Dixon. I think that's completely crazy. Also, I think part of what I didn't realize, which I did also hear on the radio, was Arie Luyendyk's speed of 236.986, which is the 4-lap record, was not a pole qualifying.
Correct. It was not a
same year that pole was won by Scott Brayton, who tragically lost his life during a practice crash. And that was Arie's, I think, second day qualifying, right? That's back when there was multiple days of qualifying. We still had multiple days of qualifying, but that was a different story, right? That was bumping, and that was trying to get back into the field. So that's where that is. So this effort from Scott Dixon was the fastest qualifying speed.
Yeah. And I'll just have to say, for Chip Ganassi Racing as a whole, this is arguably the greatest weekend all time for a team qualifying at Indy. Now, if you think back, right, Penske swept the front row in 1988, and it hasn't been done since, and it wasn't done prior. So Penske's still the only team that's swept the front row. And when you have 5 cars in the top 12, Chip Ganassi had a really good shot at doing it. And even when you got to the final 6, when you had 4 cars there, you had a good shot. They just didn't do it. But for the Penske folks, if folks remember, it was Rick Mears, Danny Sullivan, and Al Unser Sr. And then Rick Mears claimed his 3rd Indy 500 victory on race day in 1988. So the question really becomes, will Dixon win this year? And I'd say tune into the broadcast on Sunday to see what happens. And I'm sure everybody that listens to this will see it. But I don't know. You think Dixon's going to pull it out based on where he's starting and how the car's looking? And I have one other thing to mention before you answer that. So today was practice for the Indy 500, which is one of the last practices. I know there's one more to go, but and the headline I'm reading says Ganassi in charge during Monday Indy 500 practice. The fastest overall was Alex Palou. Second was Scott Dixon. And third was Jimmy Johnson. They were 1, 2, 3 in the practice today. So they're going to be a force to be reckoned with, as long as they don't get caught out on any odd, bizarre yellows and things of that sort. That team's going to be tough. And I'm not sure if anybody really saw it coming until, Friday, Saturday, really saw that team coming together and gelling like that.
Right. We'll talk about that. Yeah. Cause there were some other cars definitely that were very fast that just didn't show up for qualifying in the same way that the Ganassi cars did. So there's only one team really, Tim, that could spoil the Ganassi party on pole day. And that was Ed Carpenter Racing. And I don't think this comes as a surprise to anybody. We always expect Ed Carpenter Racing to be strong at the Speedway. 2/3 of their cars, put it in the top 12. Renus VK, Ed Carpenter, Connor had, I think he really got cut out as on the changing conditions on Saturday, couldn't advance to the Fast 12. So Renus 3rd place, Ed in 4th. Class of the Chevy contingent, which I think was a little bit of a surprise because Penske's were very fast. earlier on in the week.
Mm-hmm.
Neither achieved, however, that 234 average that both Dixon and Pelot did on their first laps, on their first qualifying laps. And I think that's really where it held them back. It was a bit of a surprise to me, Tim, because I think we've been saying all along that Chevy's been very, very strong this year, which they'll continue to be strong this year. But somehow Honda was able to reach down just a little bit further and bring out some massive top speeds on qualifying day, where all things were equal, right? We can talk about Connor Daly's fastest trap speed coming out of, going into turn 3, but he had a tailwind. So, all things being equal, right? But it's like he caught it just at the right time and probably had a bit of a toe. So he was able to pull that off. But
I was just going to say, you look at conditions. It was a wind going into the turn 3 on Saturday, and then the wind was going into turn 1 on Sunday. So totally different conditions.
Yeah.
But overall, from the perspective of being a surprise, I was not surprised that the team was there at Carpenter Racing, but I was surprised there wasn't another team there to really, compete with the Ganassi guys. So I'm surprised it just came down to the 2 teams in the Fast 6, and that was it. I thought there would have been some other players in there. So that did come to a surprises me.
Yeah, I'm with you there. One team did give it everything they had, and that was Arrow McLaren. They line up 3 cars for the 500. Both Award and Felix Rosenquist had strong efforts, qualifying 7th and 8th, just missing out on that top 6 shootout. Tim, did you see the in-car for Felix during his qualifying yesterday? How busy his hands are?
I did see a lot of movement. One hand seems to be on a trigger in order to keep the weight jacker in one position when you're going down the straightaway, and you got to lift off of that before you get in the corner. And then the other one, I think, is doing the fuel mapping.
Right. So I don't understand how first a team would allow a driver to do that. Or in the same token, I don't know how a team would ask a driver to do that. Right. Because you figure, like you just said, the wind going, pushing you into turn 1. Yesterday during qualifying, he's topping 240 miles an hour going into turn 1, which is the scariest turn on this circuit, period. Right. And he's got hands moving, and he's got another hand coming over, and he's doing all this while covering 100 yards a second.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand why they would ask him to do that.
Yeah, it was the crossover that seemed a little much. If you're holding the button down with your left hand and your fuel knob's over on the left-hand side, then you've got to cross it over to do it. But maybe it's not that uncomfortable and it's easy to do. I don't know. Other ones seem to have paddles for the weight jacker. So you right side click it to turn it on, left side turn it off, whatever it might be. There was different methods from the teams in order to get the weight jacker in the right position for the straightaway into the corner. And that had to do with raising the nose down the straightaway and then lowering it for the corner to get a little more grip in the front end. So that was my understanding of what was going on with the weight jacker and how they were moving it around. But back in the day, you got to think, you took your hands off the wheel to pull the weight jacker, right?
Which they still do. It's the roll bars. They control by hand. They do the weight jackers on the steering wheel.
Okay.
But you're right. They still have to do that, but at least it's right here, right? Yeah. It's just forward of your right hand anyway. It's not having to reach over. Yeah. And it's not having to hold the button.
Yeah.
And do all this other stuff. So just unnecessary complexity, in my opinion. I think, JPM just didn't get it going for qualifying. I was kind of surprised by that, given how strong his teammates were. He's going to line up 30th.
I know.
Can he win from there, Timmy?
Of course he can. He's JPM. He can do that.
Is he?
And I don't know if you saw today, Dan. Did you see today? JPM passed Ray Hall, Ray Hall in the short shoot in today's practice. Man, that was.
I didn't, however, see any of the Ray Hall aftermath on that. I don't know if there is any aftermath on that, because JPM is a very capable past champion. A very capable past winner in multiple series. So I don't know that Graham Rahal would it would suit Graham to pick a fight with
Yeah,
Marco won one time.
I don't think it would suit him well, and I don't see anything that anybody mentioned that. So,
Yeah,
but I'm sure Graham was not happy with that move because
certain
that's
of it.
kind of unexpected, right? You come
Oh yeah.
out of turn three, pass them between 3 and 4,
Yep.
and I'm sure Graham was surprised by it, and it was just practice, right?
Yeah, it was
And
aggressive for practice. We're talking about practice.
we're talking about practice here, but it was good. I couldn't believe the move. It could have ended really bad, like I said, if he can do that in the race, look out. He's going to go to the front.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He'll be around for sure.
Yeah.
Tim, I would say that our next team, Andretti Autosport, was a bit of a surprise to me. Was this a surprise to you? They struggled.
It was. Yeah.
They struggled.
Surprising in a bad way, of course.
Yes.
That team. Yeah.
Yep.
It was just didn't come together, but we've talked about their issues all season. And I think it just kind of culminated in the qualification here. So can they come in during the race and do something? It sounds like they have the power based on what Ganassi did. So they got
to put it on the ground, and apparently they're not able to get it on the ground. Even so, surprised to me that they were this far behind in qualifying. Even more surprising to me was the fact that Grosjean, who is an oval rookie, is the one that represented Andretti Autosport in the qualifying shootout. Right,
the only one.
Right. And it really looked to me like Rossi had the faster car of this group, but he, of course, qualified 20th. I realized some of that was the poor draw from Saturday, but nonetheless, Grosjean lines up 9th, Rossi 20th, Marco 23rd, which honestly, had it not been for Marco Andretti, I think, all that bad luck would have just stayed on Rossi. At least Rossi has a place to park his bad luck for maybe one weekend. Because if it could go wrong for Marco, it did, right? He had a golf cart or some kind of cart on pit road, Sato on the track, impeded his first lap. Then he had the engine kind of stalling on him or cutting out on him.
Yep.
Some wrench or something that he hit on pit lane. Just a sequence of crazy things happening to him, along with electronics or something, right?
Yeah, the electronic issue where the engine cut off on the first run, but it was already destroyed from Sato being on the track and not on the warm-up lane to come into the pits.
Right. Di Francesco 24th, Herta 25th.
Yeah, that's so surprising. Herta's the final qualifier of the Andretti squad.
Yeah.
I think the whole weekend and what they've done this far epitomizes Andretti luck at Indy. It's
run out.
It's bad luck.
Yeah.
But a lot of that goes into hard work and getting the setups right and having the teams gel. And even if you look at the engineering help they provide to Meyer Shank, those guys didn't fare very well at qualifying either. So
nope.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what that team does. They've got a lot of cars in the race, and we'll see where they come and how it kind of plays out. But at the end of the day, that was horrific. I'm sure Michael is not a happy camper.
5 cars, right? At Andretti to go along with this entire empire of motorsport that they've got going on in multiple disciplines.
And as you mentioned, your rookie guy.
Yes,
one of your rookie guys is your top qualifier.
Yeah.
And the guy
he had a moment in qualifying, but I mean, he saved it. So he didn't have anything weird happen, but he did have a moment.
Yeah. And the guy that you're sort of looking at to win the championship is qualified last on the team.
Yeah. Yep. There, obviously there's a lot of cars in this field. There's a lot of things that happen. I think that lining up, 3 abreast thing is also creates its own complexities and its own opportunities for things to go wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's,
you're not trying to change that, are you?
No, I'm certainly not. Right.
All right. Because I love it.
That's perspective.
That's what I love.
But the deal here is it increases the opportunity for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
And he's lining up right next to his teammate, who is also a rookie, who's not had the best year. I'm talking about Herta lining up next to Di Francesco.
Yeah.
So, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. It just a mess for this team, this qualifying effort. And normally I'm using the M word for Rahal.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't any better.
Nope. No, we're going to get there. Dale Coyne Racing, Sato lines up 10th, which I think is a good spot, but I certainly would believe that he's disappointed with that given his practice speeds all week. I always tell you practice doesn't mean that much, but certainly it meant enough that we would have expected to see Sato in a much different position than 10th place.
Yeah, he led a lot of the time charts all week long.
Yep, very fast all week.
And even Dale was pretty bullish on it. Dale Coyne being saying, because if you recall, which I'm sure you'll get to, but if you recall, his first qualifying run was disqualified, if you want to call it that, because of what happened with Andretti. But Dale's like, it just gives another chance to be up in the front where we should be.
Yeah, not a big deal. Whoa. They were very confident in their cars. Yeah, very confident in their cars, and they should have been. And with that, you got Malukas, who qualified just outside the 12th place.
Yeah,
right. Which that was a tall run for a rookie at Indy, and he's not exactly had the best season either.
Mm-hmm.
So it just goes to prove those coin cars were dialed in. Not to say anybody could drive it, but those coin cars were dialed in. Those coin cars were dialed in better than the Andretti cars, which has vast superior resources.
I agree.
Right?
Did you see Sato's run to get into the top 12?
I did.
He hit the wall and and kept his foot in it and still made the top 12.
Vintage Sato. Yeah. Similar to what Will did last year to qualify 33rd.
Fearless.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I get it.
Hit the wall, never stopped pushing it, the go pedal.
Sato's going to be one to watch on race day, folks. You got to check him out and see what he's up to, because I think he's going to storm to the front and be a contender, because they've got the speed. He has the car. They missed the handling a little bit on qualifying, but overall 10th, like you said, they're got to be disappointed with it based on the practice speeds they had all week. And it'll be good to watch Sato. Could he get his third this year?
Could.
He could.
Penske, here's another unexpected result. You got any thoughts on that, Tim?
Yeah, just a disaster for Team Penske. I only say it because it's Team Penske. They're supposed to be up front. They have the Chevy power plant.
Yeah. And Will was fast all week as well, right? He was always in the hunt. He was always in the conversation. A lot of the wisdom was the Penskes haven't showed their cards yet, not necessarily sandbagging, but they weren't pushing anything yet, right? They didn't want to show their full hand. And at the end of the day, they were bluffing, right? The only one that wasn't was Will. Qualified 11th. Hanging it all out. Will got everything he could out of that car. Garden 14th. Scott McLaughlin 26th. That is a disaster. It is a disaster. They'll be in the hunt on Sunday.
Yeah, will they be in the hunt on Sunday?
Well, of course.
Think so?
But you know who I fear for? Scott McLaughlin. For the same reasons of what I talked about with the Andretti Autosport. And by the way, he's lining up right next to Herta and DiFrancesco.
Yeah.
When you start that far back, the odds of something happening to you're just getting caught up in somebody's something, right? Somebody's debris.
It doesn't have to be you.
It doesn't have to be you. Mm-mm. It could be something going on in front of you. There's 25 other cars in front of you. Anything can happen.
Yeah. And what it comes down to is you got to push the car harder earlier. You're going to use up your tires faster, use more fuel, and you got to take more chances. That's just how it works when you're back there. But you have to keep dialing it back, going, it's 500 miles, it's 7 pit stops, it's a long race, 6, 7, whatever it's going to be.
Yeah.
And take your time and get through it. And the only team that knows how to do that the best is Team Penske. They know how to play that game. They know how to go through that. They know how to coach their drivers through the situation of the day. And the day is, we're starting way in the back. Don't worry. Here's where we expect to be after 50. Here's where we want to be after 100 laps, and so on and so forth until we get down to the last 50. And that's when it's go time.
Yep. That's what you think.
But you got to work harder.
By the way, my bride looked at the weather, the early forecast. Now, granted, it's 6 more days. My bride looked at the weather, 85.
I saw 86, so we're right on. But I looked at Speedway, Indiana. I didn't look at Indianapolis, Indiana. So
what happens there? Anything could happen, right? Track's going to get greasy. Yeah. It's going to get,
it'll be exciting.
That's where I think it favors the right?
Yeah.
The older guys, the guys with a lot
But
of
that team has to be frustrated with the
sure.
qualifying results. And,
Yep.
11th doesn't sound bad, right? That's Newgarden at 14th. Those are manageable, but Scott in 26, that hurts. And,
Yeah.
and Scott went back out Saturday and fell back in the field. So he must have, and I missed it, but he must have went out and went to lane 2, I think. Lane 2 is where you give up your time. They have the lane 1 and lane 2. And so he went out there and had his time erased and went and did a run and fell back in the field. Otherwise, I think he was in the teens somewhere for sure.
Yeah.
So that
him.
was disappointing.
Dry and Reinbold. Next team up. Santucci. 15th, right? 15th place. I'm sure he's disappointed by this. But again, the draw on the Chevy, I don't think really had much to match up with the Hondas. Nonetheless, he's fast in Indy. He is fast, he is passed a lot of cars in his short career in Indianapolis. Fully expect him to pass a lot of cars on Sunday. It's going to be fun to watch.
You have to think of this. It's his best qualifying start, his best starting position for the Indy 500. So he's been there before, and he's another one to look out for.
Yeah, his best being 15th. He might not know how to act being that far up in the field. What'd you think of the limo tinted aero screen?
I wouldn't expect anybody else to show up with it except for Santino, and he showed up with the tint. They finally asked him about it, and he was quoted as saying, "We had the tint last year. I think it's just a little darker this year, so it's a little more noticeable."
Yeah.
But I don't mind it. I don't know.
I like it. I don't know why. I would really hope for more people to use it because I think it looks great.
Yeah. And I think he
gave great. You can't see the drivers' helmets or faces or anything in these cars anyway.
Yeah.
So why not, tint those things out? Because it looks really good. It improves the look of that aero screen in the car.
Yeah.
With the paint scheme. I like it. I don't know why you wouldn't. And if it helps keep it cooler, because it's taking out the sunshine into the cockpit, why not?
Yeah, and I think it comes down to visibility of all the steering wheel and all the information that's on the steering wheel too. Mm-hmm. So when you have the visor down, you can't really see that. You're looking out through the windscreen, and you have it tinted so you can see out there. But then when you look down, you can't see it. And it's just like when you're driving in your car, right? And you got your sunglasses on, you went down to look at your radio and to change something, or you get a phone call and it's coming up on your dash and you look down, you can't see it. So you pull your sunglasses down a little bit to see the screen. It's the same situation. So I think it's a functional thing as well. And not just, hey, I'm cool, I'm going to show up with tint.
Some polarized lenses that you have, right, that we wear as sunglasses, and I'm sure that they run as visors, do play kind of some games with some LED readouts and some digital readouts that you can't see them that well. And again, we were talking about it with Felix. You're going down, the road 100 yards a second.
Yeah.
You need every advantage that you can get to see what's on the steering wheel, what's on this tiny little display that's got to be shaking. Think about it. That thing can't be perfectly still when you see it, because even sometimes the onboard camera is like buzzing.
Yeah. And I think even when we talked to Hinch on the show, he was talking about how quickly you're going and how you need to know what you're looking at each point during a lap, so you can take the information in and still look up and look down the track, because you're looking way down the track of where your car is going to be, not where you're at currently, because you'll never be in the spot you need to be if that's the case. And so to have that advantage of looking down at your instruments and seeing where they are without having your eyes to adjust for a split second is going to help you overall on race day. So I think it's a good call. I do like a little bit that, of seeing the driver through the windscreen, but if it helps the driver and helps safety, it's fine if it's tinted.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I like it. I really do. I hope it, I hope we see it a little bit more.
Well, if anybody saw Dan driving down the street,
That's what my Jeep looks like.
Yeah, it's all tinted. No wonder you like it.
That's right. No, I like it. I do. I like the look.
I think it's against the law too, but you don't really care. You just put the tint on and off you go.
Yep.
Have you been pulled over for that before?
Nope.
Just for the tint? Okay.
Nope. Shank Simon Pagenaud lines up 16th, Helio Castroneves 27th. We'll take the second question first. Helio Castroneves lines up 27th. You and I are both would be just coming unglued, right, to watch Helio take a fifth win in Indianapolis.
Mm-hmm.
Can he win from there?
I don't think so.
No, I think it's going to be very difficult.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Difficult. Yeah. Outside line or row 9. I think that's going to be very difficult. I don't know what happens there because, again, we're not insiders, right? We're just fans. We do know, I mean, some of this, we've been watching this for a long time, 30 years, right? 30 years plus.
Mm-hmm.
This almost looks to me like this is part of the effect of having Andretti manage your engineering, right? Which
I just think they're
doesn't have the resources necessarily to pick up their own engineering team. And why would you leave Andretti, right? But I think that's part of this. I think that the Andretti prepared cars, and these two, I think you can call it that. The Andretti prepared cars just missed.
Yeah. But they were working hard today. All the Andretti cars,
and
that includes the Meyer Shank, running together to figure out race setups so they could sort of come to the front.
Simon Pagenaud, I think of these two, and it's not taking anything at all away from Helio Castroneves. I think Pagenaud's still going to have a pretty good race on Sunday.
Yeah.
I really do. I think he's going to have a pretty good race. And it's not just because we saw him on video riding a bicycle carrying a briefcase.
That is true.
But
you went back to the bike riding with the briefcase?
I did. I had to. Sorry. It just popped into my head.
I still remember that.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's funny. Yeah. Crazy. No, I think he'll do well.
I think he'll do well.
He's up far enough to be competitive early and stay up near the front. And like I said, they were working on it today to try to make sure that they had a good race set up for all 7 cars, we'll call it, that are in that stable. And at the end of the day, who knows on Helio? I said no, he's not going to do it. I think that the odds are really, really slim. But if they got it right, the setup, then maybe. But
yeah,
I think it's going to be
it's going to need some luck, some yellow,
a lot
of luck, and some really, really stout strategy. And I don't know that you're going to get that there.
Yeah.
Foyt J.R. Hildebrand 17th. He's of course the Indy ringer, brought in to drive in place of Tatiana Calderon.
Stars and Stripes, right?
Yeah, Stars and Stripes. 17th place starter, Kyle Kirkwood 28th, Dalton Kellett 29th. Just really, really off for those two.
Yeah, I don't think Kyle looked
not great. No,
he's comfortable in the car at all. So
nope.
I think the setup's a little off, and Collette hit the wall today right in practice, so some of the handling isn't there. It's gonna be a long day. I
don't know what happened there. I saw that during practice this afternoon, and Kellett was just kind of trailing Grosjean into turn 1, kind of into the short chute.
He was a little high.
He was a little high, but
and I think he turned. My assumption, seeing it, was that he probably tried to turn down to get into the line better, and he just pinched it too. There goes pinching again. He just pinched it down a little too far, and the back end stepped out. That would be my assumption.
Yep. Tim's a pincher, ladies and gentlemen.
I'm a pincher. Watch out.
Look out. Juncos, Kellamilot, 19th. We love this team. We love this story. We love how tough they are. This is, I think, right, a direct example of you've got one guy. So you can't make a lot of changes. You can't really play a lot of things, even though you have all this practice time and you've got all of these things. You're only getting feedback from one driver in one car. So, changes or taking big swings at it, you really can't do because you got one car. So you're taking the one car off the track to make whatever changes you need to do there. So, 19th, better than others, better than Castroneves, right?
And
more resources, better than most of the people on Andretti Autosport.
Yeah. He went out early in Saturday practice, if I recall. And so I was hoping for a little better result, but for a small little team, 19th, you take it.
What I was surprised to see, and maybe I didn't notice it in some of the replays that I watched over the weekend, was the side pods are empty on this car. And I would suggest that his performance so far to date, I think would be good enough to bring somebody in if somebody were interested in, getting some exposure at the 500. I don't see why not. I think they'd be a good team for it. Hey, we'll put our logo on the side pods.
Put it on there. We got a couple bucks to give them,
right? If Ricardo wants to call us, right? If Mr. Hollinger wants to call us,
yeah,
give us a call. Talk about it.
We'll give you a few bucks. We'll put you got the high res graphic, right?
A few bucks. I do have the high res graphic.
All right, so there we go. We already got the artwork.
That's right. We can flip that artwork to you right away. Rahal Racing, Graham, 21st.
Wait.
Christian Lundgaard, oh my God, 31st. Yeah. Jack Harvey, 32nd. Tim, this team, I don't even know what to say this. And they were limited on Friday. I get it. The weather wasn't great, but
they chose not to run.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. They chose not to run. So very conservative approach on Friday, or none at all. They didn't have any approach on Friday. They looked at the weather conditions and said, let's not do anything. And their qualifying results, never surprised with bad runs when it comes to qualifying. Only if they do something good in qualifying will I be surprised with this team. They are struggling. They're struggling a lot, and I'm very perplexed by where they're at.
Yeah. Even though the weather was bad, you would think they were not great all week, right? So you would have, I guess, to me, right? But I'm not writing the checks.
Yeah.
But to me, I look at it like we need every second of track time that we can possibly get. Graham ran 12 laps, Christian ran 7, and Jack ran 8 laps. They had possibility.
This is all on Friday.
On Saturday.
This is what they ran on Friday.
Yeah.
Wow.
They had possibility of wind on Saturday. So why wouldn't you go out there and try to get a handle of what the wind would be like anyway for your cars? Why wouldn't you just get out there and run these cars? Again, I'm not writing the checks, but I'm sitting in the stands, and I'm expecting a good show. Exactly. Jeez. Exactly. No shortage of resources. We've been saying that all season. Yeah. And they unloaded not great. I don't want to say bad, because the effort and everything that the people at the shop and the people on the track and even the drivers themselves that are putting into this thing, I can't bring myself to say it's bad, right?
Yeah. It's no lack of effort, right?
It's just
maybe Friday was
head scratch. Yeah, right.
Friday might have been lack of effort, but I think leading up to it, there's no shortage of effort. Yeah. And I think it came off the truck not very good, but they never were able to chase it down. And I think they made it worse over the long haul.
Yep. Can Graham run well from 21st? Sure. Lundgaard and Harvey, what's the best that they can hope for? Attrition?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, when you look at this, you're not thinking, we're going to come out of Indy with, a top 5 or even a top 3 and definitely not a win, right?
No.
You look at that and you go, well, let's see what we can do on Sunday and see what happens and try to get the car as good as we can. And we'll chase the handling all day on Sunday, make adjustments, and maybe, just maybe, we might be there.
Yeah.
I don't think they have a shot at all.
Me neither. As good as they were last year, I'm shocked at how bad they are. And again, I hate to keep saying it, how rough their week has been. As good as they were last year, I cannot believe how rough their week has been. So, but who was there last year in that team? Sato. And Sato's good at Indy. Mm-hmm. So if they were leaning on Sato for setups, then maybe that's where that advantage came from. But who was good at Indy last year? Jack.
Yeah.
So
he was. He's in a Meyer
so,
Shank car, though.
Yes, he was engineered by Penske, which is just right. So I got it pulled up.
Andretti, you mean?
Yeah, well, I guess, he started 20th, I guess. Jack Harvey did. He finished 18th.
Okay.
So maybe not as well.
But Graham was there.
Yeah, Graham was
last
there.
year.
But Graham had the thing with the tire not being
pit stop. Yeah. Pit stop error.
Yeah. Crashed right in front of us.
His tire come off and he went up the track and hit the wall.
Yep. So not great.
I don't know.
I got a good question here for you. This is a surprise for you. So Stefan Wilson Stefan Wilson lines up 33rd. Dragon Speed, Cusick Motorsports, steep learning curve for this team. Had a problem with transmission. The gears were mixed up, led to an over rev. And then as a precaution, they had to make an engine change. I don't want to talk about that part yet. I don't know how you do that.
I don't know either.
But they didn't take the flag for qualifying, and he's going to line up 33rd. I saw something on Twitter earlier. Somebody was none too pleased about that.
Yeah, not happy at all that there was a 0 speed for a car that's lined up for the Indy 500.
How do you feel about it?
The alternative is to have 32 drivers. I say you let them in. It doesn't bother me. Yeah. You let them in, let them run. I like to see 33 cars, so sure. I'm saying it's good. If it was a bump situation, he would have been out, but it wasn't. So I'll blame it on not enough cars that he's in the field.
Yep. Believe it or not, I don't have an opinion about it. I want to have an opinion about it because when I first saw that on Twitter this afternoon, I thought, I don't really know how I feel about that. I don't know if I'm okay with it. I don't know if I'm not okay with it. I really don't.
It doesn't bother me.
But I think that's what it is, right? Is we just want to see 33 cars line up there. The guy is in the show. They had, mechanical error that led to an engine change. And, unfortunately, this team that is pulling it together the best they possibly can just didn't have time to manage that change. So it is what it is.
And I'll say, if you don't want him in the race, and I'm talking to the series, if you don't want him in the race, get more than 33 cars and he wouldn't be in the race.
Yep. Yeah. So I didn't want to derail the show with this, but I do want to put this out there because I've been thinking about it all day. I said a long time ago, and I've said it a couple of times right here on this podcast, I expected the Toyota announcement this month.
Oh.
And it's quiet. Obviously, we have no Toyota announcement. We're going to have this race in 6 days.
Yeah.
So
You think they do it at the
not this week?
I
think if they would have done, absolutely, this is the way to do it.
Think
right?
This
the
is
whole
the
world is watching the series this month.
Yeah.
Going anywhere else, they're not gonna. The world isn't watching IndyCar descend upon Newton, Iowa.
Yeah, that is true.
Or Detroit, right? If you
want to distract away
socks,
from
right, then you announce Toyota in Detroit, right? Home of Chevy. It's Chevy's home race. It's Chevy's home track. That kind of thing. Maybe you do that just to kind of make a point, or you do it at Mid-Ohio where it's Honda's home race, Honda's home track. But I think you do it in May at Indianapolis because this is where you're going to get the most eyes on your product.
Yeah. But if you're a PR person, you got to look at that and go, does it make sense to do it during the 500 when we have two manufacturers that have been by us for years on end? And we want to, make sure that we're supporting the manufacturers that are in the series currently. And maybe you hold off to later in the season to announce it. So
I think there's a balance. Indy 500 PR people or Indy car
Indy
PR
race,
people?
the IndyCar series.
My opinion there is IndyCar PR people are talking about IndyCar. And whether it's the month of May and it's going to maybe, put a little rash on the behinds of Honda or Chevy, I don't think they care because their sole purpose in life is to promote the Indy racing, right? IndyCar.
The IndyCar series.
IndyCar racing. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I think there's a little bit of maybe let's not do it during Indy. Let's let Honda and Chevy have
understand what you're saying. I completely disagree.
Okay.
Yeah, completely.
We're allowed to disagree.
Is that a Chardonnay or is that a something?
In the cup is water with some
Tim,
ice.
For the podcast listeners, Tim has a little. It's a stemless wine glass, plastic one, blue, cobalt blue with a lid, with a sippy lid, and it's not wine. Apparently, it's water.
By now, if it was like red wine, wouldn't my teeth be red and like my lips a little bit? I think that's what happens.
Depends on how many bottles of it you drink. This is why I don't drink anymore.
I know that.
I've seen that before.
It's water.
Yeah, that's why I have this.
Oh, you're drinking coffee. That's what you always drink.
So
Dan drinks
cup of coffee.
How many cups of coffee?
A lot.
A day.
I don't measure my coffee consumption in cups, I measure it in pots.
I know. So you're probably on your second pot, maybe third pot. It's
It's
pretty
my
late.
third. Yeah.
Third pot of coffee today for Dan. So
Yeah.
if there's any doctors listening, you might want to give him a buzz and say,
My
hey,
resting
Dan,
heart rate is in the low 60s. There's nothing wrong with my heart rate.
Jeez, that's much better than mine. But
Timmy, you got some stories to watch?
I do. Do you have any to watch though? Or
I'm watching all the stories you're watching. You know why?
I'm watching
because
all
we
right.
will be there together.
All right, so let's do it. I think the first one is, can Dixon shake the monkey off his back and drive to victory, or will he get caught up like he did last year with an ill-timed yellow?
Dude, if it doesn't happen this year, I don't know when it will. Right?
I know.
I don't
and that's
know
why
when
I
it will.
brought up the Rick Mears on the pole and the Penske guys having the great month they did in 88 and Rick driving from the pole to victory, because I think he's going to do it. I think he needs Lady Luck on his side to make it happen, as any driver does to win this race. But to your point, he's finished second multiple times and he's been really, really well. He just hasn't, except for the one time, been to victory lane. He's due, in my opinion. And I'm mad I didn't pick him from the beginning. Yep. And I think, so that's a big story to watch, right? And,
it is.
And that's an obvious one to watch. Chevy versus Honda.
Yep.
In race trim and fuel mileage. That's going to be something to watch. Honda got the best of them in qualification with just the two Ed Carpenter racing cars in the Fast Six with the other Honda boys. But the Honda boys are all from Ganassi, so it'll be interesting what the other Honda folks do and what the other Chevy teams do in this race. Any projections on that, Dan, from your perspective?
I think it's going to be a Honda race again.
Oh my goodness.
I really do.
I feel like you shifted gears after qualifying.
Dude, I have. I'm all over the board. I can't pick. I'm still, I'm still picking Graham because I have to. I'm still rooting for Will Power, but I can't help but be rooting for Scott Dixon. Scott needs a second win. Scott needs a second win. He has a phenomenal career, but he needs a second win.
You being all over the board on this topic of Chevy versus Honda and driver versus another driver is why this is why this series is so good. You cannot nail anything down and go, this is what's going to happen week in and week out. You just don't know.
It is why the series is so good.
Yeah.
You know who's going to win in Formula One next week? A Red Bull. And if it's not, it'll be a Ferrari. And it may be a Mercedes.
You got them winning at Monaco? Because that's coming up.
Red Bull? Yeah.
You got to win at Monaco.
Anyway, sorry, we don't win at
Monaco. No, we got to talk about that a little bit. I got Ferrari winning at Monaco. I think we're going to pull that through.
It'll be one of those two. That's the point.
Yeah. Yep. My other 2 points, and we kind of talked about this, are the RLL cars, which is the Ray Hall, Letterman, Lanigan cars, that bad? Or will they come through the field?
Nope.
They're that bad, and they're not going to come through the field.
Yep.
Yeah, I think so too. Meyer Shank coming through the field. We just talked about it. Maybe Pagano, right?
Yeah.
Penske team, I think you're going to have to watch out for them. They will be coming up.
It'll be Will.
It'll be Will.
Patient Power, right? Will run a very smart race. And I think if he's got some, luck is not a strategy. But if they run a very patient race and they're smart and they recognize the opportunities that they need to take, and Will certainly will recognize those opportunities. Mm-hmm. You look for Will at the end of that race, the last 20 laps. Look for Will. I just
drank some more Chardonnay, everybody.
You did.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's Team Penske, and I think Will be up there. I just don't know if he has the speed or the pace to actually take the victory. And this comes down to Honda versus Chevy in the right setup, right?
Yep.
Against the Ganassi cars, because I think that's what it's going to come down to. I'm not sure Ed Carpenter Racing, they could be there at the end of the day, but they're a smaller outfit and they haven't done in the past, and they got to be buttoned up to make it happen, and they could be there as well.
And so I guess stretched, right? Because they're a 3-car team this weekend, which they normally are not.
Yeah. So the question is can they avoid the mistakes and be there at the end?
Yep.
I hope so, for Renus's sake and even Ed's sake. Ed's a fan favorite out there. Takuma, will he get his number 3? He's starting 10th, as you mentioned earlier. I think it's possible. Dan, do you think it's possible?
It is possible. Probable? Probably not. Possible, sure. Probable?
Yeah.
I think it's more probable that it's going to come from a Ganassi car.
Oh, absolutely. But I think you can't rule
It's
Sato
more
out.
probable that it's going to come from a Penske car.
Yeah. This
Not
is
ruling 'em
something
out.
that I think,
Yeah.
yeah, this is something that I think will be interesting to watch. And it sounds simple, but being able to slow the car down for pit entrance, I think you're going to see a lot of mistakes like you did last year in that. I think we saw some of that in practice today.
Saw it today. Yes. I was just going to say, we saw it
Yeah.
today. Yep. It's
Yeah.
going to be a problem.
So I think it's going to be a problem. It's going to be something to watch. You're going to see several cars exceeding pit speed, trying to get woed down for the pits. And then you're going to even see some spin going in the pits. And that's going to be tough. And, I think it's just the way the cars are built for the super speedway is that you have small brakes. They're not warm. You got to warm those brakes up before you get into the pits. And then you got to bring it down from 200 miles an hour down to 60, 80 miles an hour, whatever the speed limit is in the pit lane. One of those two for sure. I think it's 80. And get that car woed down. And it's tough to do if you're not using the brakes, and they're not using the brakes through the 500. So that's going to be something that most people kind of take for granted, but it's going to be something we're going to have to watch.
Yep.
You got anything else?
We're going to be there.
Oh, we're going.
Yeah. So I have one great fear in preparing to make the trek to Indianapolis, which, my bride and I are going, and meet you and your bride and your beautiful children. And,
Yep.
Bill and Jill from Shelby will be there.
Yeah.
And, looking forward to a great weekend with great friends and, have a nice time with that. I'm terrified I'm going to leave these tickets at home.
Well,
So
I
this
was the one that
afternoon
may you get.
Yes. This afternoon, I have turned them over to my bride.
Oh,
Said,
so they'll make
don't
it.
want this responsibility anymore. Okay.
So they will make it then.
Yes.
Yeah. If the story goes, we had electronic tickets, and I said, Dan, I need a hard copy of my ticket. So what did you do? You called the office?
Yeah. I called
You
Corey
called the office,
at the
ticket
IMS
office.
ticket office, and Corey took care of me.
Corey
Corey
said,
also
you know what,
took care
Dan,
of me
we
for
got you.
my parking pass when I was at the GMR Grand Prix as well. So
Oh.
shout out to Corey at the
That's
IMS
awesome.
ticket office. Yeah.
Yeah. And we got 9 converted from electronic to physical tickets. So we got 9 of us going. It's going to be a great time.
It's going to be a great time.
I'm looking forward to it.
Look for the folks at the Turn 4 podcast sitting in between turns 1 and 2.
Wait a minute. We're between 1 and 2 and we're not in turn 4?
No, we're not. So
that's great.
Yeah.
I can't wait to go. It's going to be an awesome time. We're going to do a little bit of camping with you guys, which I'm looking forward to doing. And
Timmy, are we going to put some turn 4 or some pictures on the turn 4 Instagram page?
Instagram. Yeah. There'll be pictures out there. We'll have some videos. We're going to do it right. It's going to be a great time. I can't wait. It's always good to spend Memorial Day weekend in Indianapolis.
We don't really have any summer gear with our logo on it, unfortunately. So
we don't, but we're getting some for another event.
We're working on it. Yeah. So we'll talk about it next week.
Sure will.
Stay tuned. Hey, this has been another episode of the Turn 4 podcast. Be sure to tune in, follow us on social media, our YouTube channel, engage with us there. Looking forward to a great Indianapolis 500 weekend, Timmy. And we'll be right back here to talk about it on Monday after the race. So until then, catch you next time. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.